Hi, Anna. Hi, Lexi. Hi, Lexi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm learning Zoom.
Yeah, my first time too.
Now, I take it you're just on audio versus video.
Yeah, is that
Okay.
all right?
No, it's perfectly fine. It's weird looking at boxes instead of people's faces. Oh,
Yeah.
I want a box.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Anna, hi.
Hi.
I have video with one person.
I
Yay.
figured since you said that I'd turn my video on.
Thanks.
I'm overcoming my fear of cameras.
No worries. Well, it's really informal. So we're just going to hang out and chat with each other, and you guys will be able to unmute yourselves by, I believe it's swiping left, I think.
I'm on the
Joanne
computer.
is our expert on this, so she can tell me.
Yes, I swiped left.
Oh, wonderful. Is that Annalise?
No, I'm sorry, that was Joanne. I'm sorry, I swiped left and it unmuted. Well, it depends on what kind of device you're on. And I swiped left and it brought me up and it showed everybody. But the actual unmute, if you touch your phone, there's a mute or non-mute bottom button that comes up on the bottom left if it's an iPhone. So that's the only way I know how to use it.
Okay. And then I can mute everyone if we get too many people talking at one time. So just so you know, if all of a sudden you're not on the microphone, that's why. And there's a way to raise your hand if you have a question. So we're just going to try this out while we're letting everyone get in and join us for the next few minutes. I will say that I'm glad you guys have added this app, because this is going to be how we do our TA roadshows and all of our crew sits and our MEC meetings. So this is going to be our way of life for at least the next 30 days as I see it. I'm hoping that it won't be that long that we're all in our little spaces, but for now, this is a new tool, and I'm nervous and excited all at the same time.
I have something to tell you, Lisa.
Yes, Joanne.
I tried to register for this meeting and sign in that way, which I think is why people are having trouble. I couldn't get into the meeting that way. I had to go in with the number that I had earlier into my Zoom app, like I did earlier today, and plug that in and then the password. And that's the only way I was able to get in. I was not able to get in with the link with the pre-register. That didn't work.
Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of us in here right now. So I suspect people are kind of figuring it out a little bit at a time. So I'm hopeful that if Circa is available today, that tonight she'll be able to get in. And there was one, Robbie Marie, I think, was trying to get in. I know Boyana was trying to get in. She's in. I saw her join, so that's good. Natasha is back with us again. That's great. Oh my gosh, we're getting lots more people. This is really exciting. I'm going to give just a couple more minutes for people to join in, maybe just one more minute since it's 6:30, and we won't delay it too long. Right now, it looks like we have 14 participants, so I think that's great. I guess what I'll do is I'll start, since people are still joining in, and again, say thank you for joining us this way. I apologize that it was so last minute, but to be perfectly honest, I was laying in bed last night trying to figure out how to get to everyone, to get as much information as possible with everything that's gone on in the last 30 days. It has been such a busy time. I haven't had a lot of time to update everybody. I haven't had a lot of time to do communications. We've been pushing things here and there, but they've been random, and some information is out, and then I jumped the gun with some other information and confused people. So I have literally been in meetings since February 29th when I got the first text message about this. I attempted to work from a remote location because I had a 2-week vacation planned, and I thought, I can do this. And 3 days into it, I turned around and came back because that was not manageable either. So I have been on the phone with your LECPs pretty much for the last 30 days nonstop. and the safety committee has been on since that date. So it's been, Heather has joined us on those calls as food and beverage and in-flight service. To give a little history of what the 30 days has looked like, it has been a minimum of 7 meetings a week where we're talking about the safety aspects of being on the aircraft as a flight attendant and how we can protect you in that environment as much as possible, and making arguments for all of the things that we've been able to get through: the masks, the gloves, the not crossing seat belts, the aircraft cleaning, the enhanced cleanings, the thermometers that are on board, all of those things. There's a steady list that we're still working on, that we still don't have resolution on. I will say the very first call on Monday after that Saturday, we asked for leaves to be processed without discipline immediately. It took them about a week and a half to get those in, but they're in. They are still a little confusing for members, and your local presidents are available to help answer some of those questions. Hopefully I can answer some of those tonight. We can talk about AV days, which I know are really confusing. And so we can talk about that. And we can talk about the drawdown in flying, what that means, unemployment. We really can open it up to a number of things. Hang on one sec, I have a text from Joelle that she can't get into the meeting. So Joanne, could you text? Do you have Joelle's number, Joanne, to text with her to help her get in? I know you're really good at this.
Lisa, I can figure it out. I just texted her.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, you guys. I'm going to try and keep my eye on my phone just in case somebody's trying to get in, but I'll try to stay as focused on you guys as much as I possibly can. So at this point, we have 20 participants. That's great. Welcome. I want to just go ahead and start opening it up for questions. So it may be that everyone kind of asks one all at one time, but I think it'll only let one person at a time unmic themselves. So whoever has a question that they're waiting to ask, go ahead and let's get started.
I'll just jump in. Nick Hoback here, Seattle-based, and a reserve rep for AFA. I've been hearing some chatter back and forth on Alaska, whether they have hazard pay or not, and I've heard some frontline employees are getting hazard pay. Is that something that has come up and been discussed, and or can it be? And where are we on that with the company?
Yeah, so hazard pay has not been discussed at the Alaska side or in any of our safety meetings. I know that our safety chairs brought it up, Jennifer and Brian, and we will be submitting it to the committee to talk about this week. I do not know of any specific airlines, but I've been sent a bunch of articles about Starbucks and UPS and other companies that have hazard pay. We certainly will put it in there. Along with the fact that they're trying to cut costs, it will be an interesting fight, but we should at least raise the question and let management know that there are other companies doing it, and see if any other airlines have looked at it. We will equally bring it up. Go ahead and mute yourselves if you're not the one talking, just so we don't get too much feedback. Equally, I will take it to the international call. International office has had an executive board of directors call every day, Monday through Friday at noon. So I will be on that call tomorrow at noon, and I will equally bring it up there. One thing I will say that got brought up there that is off topic a little bit, but we, Horizon AFA made a request that Sarah Nelson, who is our international president, start to fight now that she's gotten the bill through, to start the fight for testing, for flight attendant testing, mandatory testing for us as first responders. So that is the fight this week that we are going to be taking up. I know that it's difficult to get to the tests, but we feel really strongly that we need to have testing as quickly as possible and in advance of getting too much exposure to too many other flight attendants, coworkers, and passengers. So Nick, that's a great question. Jennifer and Brian have submitted it, and I will be submitting it in both venues this week. All right, next question.
Lisa, with the flights becoming more full as they consolidate them down, there goes the 6-foot rule out the window. How are we dealing with that? They won't let us wear the masks, but gloves are acceptable. The exposure is higher risk the more full our flights are.
So you are allowed to wear the mask now. They are not able to provide them because of the limited availability of stock of the masks. They have had them ordered, but they have not been able to release any to us. We still are not considered healthcare, and they're going to healthcare right now because that's the primary area. The mask is that they have approved for us to use is that surgical mask that you see. And I know there are flight attendants who've been making them. I know they're available online. We are not allowed to remove them from the UPK. Currently, we're trying to still get supplies, but you cannot remove it from there unless you are dealing with a passenger who is showing all symptoms of the virus. But you are able to wear your mask now. It needs to be neutral in color. They gave no more definition other than neutral in color. So to me, neutral, and they didn't even say neutral in color. I think they just said neutral. So neutral could be that it fits, equally on your face. I don't know. I don't think that they're going to be on the aircraft giving you a hard time about your mask, but I would make sure that there's no profanity or offensive visual effects on it, graphic designs, that type of thing. But you may wear the mask. That's probably the mask and the gloves, Judy, are probably the two biggest things that you may wear now. The sanitizer is available on board. So if you're not getting the 60% plus alcohol-based sanitizer, make sure you're filing a report on that and make sure that you have a secondary sanitizer there, which has been approved to be hospital grade. It's just a different type of sanitizer than the alcohol-based. So those three things are available to you. And Judy, if at any time you feel unsafe, you need to wash your hands, you feel like you've gotten exposed and you need to go get your hands washed and get cleaned off, please take a safety break, file a report, and take the break that you need to take. But the 6 feet rule, we have right now a 7% occupancy rate across our flights. So it's going to be a very rare flight that's that full, but you're right. There will be some now that they're condensing them.
So what do we do about a service? A lot of airlines have cut the service totally. The more we're out in the cabin in our small aircraft, exposed to our passengers, the higher the risk. So why are we, especially in the 400, I mean, the longest flight we do is, an hour maybe. So why are we being told we need to do a service?
Well, if you feel the service is unsafe, they've empowered you to not do the service. So if you feel like there are too many people and everyone's getting exposed, then you need to do what you feel is safe in our Ready, Safe, Go environment and empower yourself to make that decision. They have eliminated service from everything 250 miles or less, and they have reduced, they've eliminated the water walks. They have made it one service where you're only handing things to the individual as an individual can. So you're not pouring. It should be quick. The CDC and all of our experts that we've looked to as well on AFA's side, so our experts as well as the experts that management is using, they have all said that it's within 6 feet for 5 minutes or more. Now that is without coughing, sneezing on you, of course, but within 6 feet for 5 minutes or more. So that service time is still allowable within those guidelines. But if for some reason you feel like it's just too full and you're going to be spending too much time, more than 5 minutes in that space, then you need to make that decision for yourself and your flying partners and just file a report that you felt it was unsafe to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
To piggyback on that, Lisa, who restocks the gloves? I know those have been going through a lot more quickly, and or maybe walking off the plane. Is that LSG? Is that the cleaners? Is that Fab? Whose job is to? Who do we talk to about getting new boxes?
Yeah, it's Fab and LSG, depending on which aircraft you're on and which city you're in. And even on the Q400, when you're out at the outstations, they're supposed to have 2 backup UPKs in case you use them. And they should have backup gloves, backup sanitizer, and backup hand wash, the non-alcohol-based sanitizer. So all of those supplies are now supposed to be in all stations. Of course, as we go through it, there will be problems with inventory. If ever you do not have those bare minimum safety pieces of safety equipment for yourself, you may suspend service and make a decision that that is not a safe flight to do service on. You just make sure you file the report, file a safety report, and if you feel like you need to, copy and paste it into one of your local officers or the safety committee as well. But if you do not have those bare minimum pieces of equipment to protect yourself, and you feel it's unsafe, you're on a longer flight, then make the PA that makes sense for that flight, and be sure to keep yourself and our guests safe.
Thank you. Do we know if the cleaners are going to be cleaning the overhead bins at all? I know they've been doing a great job of the seats, but I feel like that's something that we touch a lot, as well as the other customers that might be getting lost. Do you know if there's anything in place to make that more part of the policy?
So far, we get a report every day on the aircraft enhanced cleanings, and that's at all stations, and we're at 100% for Horizon. Alaska's had, maybe 2% at the most that haven't gone through that enhanced cleaning at night, the extra enhanced RON cleaning, not just what a RON cleaning is, but our enhanced RON cleaning. Those overhead bins are one of the first places that they spend time, and one of the places where they spend the most amount of time from what we've been advised. We have checked in to make sure that that's correct information with people who are actually doing the cleaning. If you are on board the aircraft and you're in one of the stations, Portland, Seattle, and you have more than an hour, they're supposed to, again, be going across those bins and those high frequency touch areas. If you don't see them on there, you can ask the ground to verify that you did get that cleaning in that hour plus turn as well. So that should be getting hit as well. I mean, my recommendation and what International is recommending, and our brothers and sisters at Alaska, we're really recommending wear your gloves while you're doing that, but change them regularly. The problem with gloves and masks is we end up touching them and rubbing them on things, and then we've failed in really keeping as safe as we can by using those tools. So change the gloves often. If you go through once, you're doing some bins and you come back to your station, take those gloves off, put a new pair on, do them again, and just continue to do that as much as possible.
Lisa, moving forward, I know that the MEC is voting on the contract before it comes to us to vote on. Moving forward, is there anything in that contract about hazard pay, or should this scenario come up again? And if there isn't, should we maybe take the contract back to have something put in?
So I'm going to have to do some research on hazard pay with airlines, and I'm just not familiar with anyone having it out there. No, it is not in the contract. At this point, we have the 2 LECPs have voted on the contract, and it is a contract that they do want to put out for a yes vote to membership. So no, we would not be able to go back and add anything into it at this time. If for some reason we found out that there was just a huge disparity in the regionals and the other mainline carriers, that they had that type of pay for this type of environment, we could always look to negotiate it outside of the contract. It's not unheard of that we couldn't. It's not that we can't do that. We just have to get more data to find out if there's even an ability to do that. See if it's the
so all the hours that are being cut, and in some cases not trip guaranteed being cut for obvious reasons, but as line holders, if they take us below the minimum guarantee, let's say they drop us down to 45, 50 hours, we're still not paid the minimum guarantee. So
that's not correct. So
okay.
You paid min guarantee for the bid. If
okay.
Cancel your trip, Dee sent out the language for cancels. So if they cancel it more than 24 hours, they have several choices of what they can do. They can reschedule you, they can put AV days on, or they can assign you that day with an AV day. So you are still min guaranteed no matter what. If they put an AV day onto your line and you're not assigned anything, you get trip guarantee. So if by chance you had to be, maybe your line for this month was higher than min guarantee, that trip would be paid at trip guarantee. So you could potentially make your full line value if everything dropped and everything went into AV days and they trip guaranteed you for all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think what we're gonna do is, if somebody has a question, let's see who else here might have their hand up. There's a way to raise your hand in here, and I'm gonna just see if anyone's got their hand up right now. So we've got 35 people. This is great. Okay, Joanne, I'm gonna unmute you. Okay, hi, Joanne.
So, hi. So you said earlier that if we didn't have the right, gloves and or sanitizer, that type of thing, that we could suspend service. I wouldn't want to depart the flight without those protections. What are my rights?
I believe they put out a checklist of what the minimum required equipment was. And I'm sorry, I would have to even check myself to make sure that gloves and sanitizer were on there. For some reason, my head is telling me they were, but I would need to double check it. So the minimum equipment that we've been able to negotiate since this all started, I believe gloves is one of those things, but I will double check and we can get that list out again to everybody on what those items are, but I would be asking for gloves before you left. Yes.
It's pretty easy to get them right now. Even if your plane doesn't have them, pretty much I have not had any trouble, but I just am, fear for that moment if we start to get short on them.
Yeah, I would not be, we will talk about it if we start to hear reports that we don't have gloves out on the line, but I wouldn't be leaving without gloves, sanitizer, those things you have to have on board that aircraft, especially on the Q400 where, your running water is so limited in the back. That's not the greatest environment to be washing your hands in. So, but hand washing still remains the safest protection for you. So as soon as you take your gloves off, if you are on the E and the Q400, please do wash your hands after you've removed those gloves. They have committed that if there is not water in that MAPCO on the Q400, and if you're not refilled at every stop, that is a no service next flight. So without the MAPCO at any station, that is a no service flight. And I see here, hang on one second, we've got, let's see who this is. Oh. David, do you have a question for us?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can, we can.
Okay. Awesome. So when everything started with Corona, everyone on reserve got put in a restricted status on eCrew, not allowing them to trade, drop, pick up. And when I spoke with Dee Dee about it, she said that that was being done because of the uncertainty for Corona. Is that something that's going to be indefinite now for reserves, that they can no longer go and modify their schedule, or is that something that's going to end at some point?
That's a good question. I didn't know that she had blocked any trading or dropping. It makes sense to me that they would try to limit the trades until they saw how much coverage they had, but it's not something that, there's still contractual language about doing that. And there's minimum numbers that they have to have. If those numbers are met in the base, they can't just decide to lock the system out of allowing you trip drops and trades.
It's been locked for April, since April was posted.
Okay, did you get an email or something that references that you could forward over so I could look into that?
I can forward you from Dee Dee, yeah.
That would be wonderful. Since this question came up, there was a question about vacation day at a time in the system, and management did approach us and request that we waive and block vacation and only make it time off without pay. And we are not in agreement with that. So if you're finding errors in your system, or you're finding that you're not able to trade same day for same day, please get those emails to us. Jamie Moore, I believe, is on the call. She is our AIMS person who works with her counterpart inside the company on all the AIMS issues. And we'll ask for screenshots on what settings they've had for every day since this started. And we will definitely hold them accountable to those things. So I appreciate you letting us know about that and getting that email over to me. And we will start working on that first thing tomorrow, along with our other things that we're identifying tonight.
And
Thank you.
can you tag me in that email as well? Because I was not notified of this. That's pretty wild.
David, that's Jamie Moore. If you don't have her email, I'll forward it, but one way or the other, get that over to us. And yes, we absolutely will pick that up first thing in the morning. Thank you. Thanks for the question. All right, let's see if we've got any. Josh. Okay, hang on one second. Josh Hames, I believe you are coming off mute. Perfect. Hi, Josh.
Hey, so talking about AV days, I think that flight attendants need more guidance as far as what that means, because no one can find anywhere in the CBA or side letters that says how AV days are used, and Dee Dee is in her email as of the 23rd, putting screenshots of verbiage that we have, as the AFA, have agreed upon, but flight attendants haven't been given that information directly from the AFA. And part of it says that, the verbiage that she gave doesn't describe how AV days will be assigned if AV is then given to the schedule. And we haven't gotten direction from the AFA on how trips will then be assigned if AV is scheduled. And also, AV is being scheduled when an entire trip is not canceled, but that's not how the verbiage speaks in the side letter that she's quoting.
Yeah, she jumped the gun on the AV side letter usage, language, everything there. She's correct when she says that we have used AV days in the past. They were removed from the contract 2 contracts ago, 1 contract ago. Lexi might know the answer to that one. But they were used when the pilot shortage was going on. And actually, the way that they will be written in the TA and the way that Dee Dee has captured part of the information and not all of the information is for a cancel. You're correct. But they are, and it's when a portion of the trip or the entire trip is canceled. So a day or the whole trip. Right now, since we haven't agreed to anything, really pretty much anything is kind of grievable the way it happens. So I document it until we get this figured out. But Kirk is the expert really on AV days. And I just sent him a text to see how, Kirk, are you on the call? Okay, so I'll do my best to do them justice. I do not know the answer on how they're assigned, if it's senior assigned or not. I know one question was, if you are flying trips out of Payne, can you request Payne? I'm sure you could request it, but it's not a requirement because Payne is part of the Seattle base. So it could be a Seattle trip, any trip that you were assigned. Although we can try to negotiate more as we get into this section tomorrow with Dee Dee. I expect they're going to come back and say Seattle is the base and you can be assigned any flying out of Seattle. So that's the first part. The second part is it's more than 24 hours in advance they will do this. And we've heard that it can be anywhere from 3 days to 24 hours. I mean, we've really kind of run the gamut on how far out they're scheduling these. And you do not have to remain contactable at that period of time. They assign it, and if they can't reach you, they can't reach you. You don't have to answer your phone, but obviously if you want to fly and you want to recover the operation, that's one thing, but there's no obligation on it. The language is very vague. And I don't know that Kirk and Marcella, as our grievance chairs, necessarily want something more specific because it's to our benefit at the moment. You will be trip guaranteed if the AV day is on there and you don't request to have it off. You may request to have it off. It is supposed to go through eCrew. It's not supposed to be a request of Dee Dee, which I saw that was another question. So no, the system is supposed to allow you to do that. Whether or not it's working at the moment, that could be another grievance. I think there will probably be quite a bit of information coming in about these AV days for some time, since she kind of got it out there before she had vetted it out with us. So this is one of those stand by and more information will be forthcoming. We've not agreed to it's being used in its entirety this way. There were a few other components that needed to be in it, and we will get something official out if we're able to reach an agreement on it. Otherwise, you have a contract that doesn't have any language and you have this email which does, and that presents probably a lot of potential grievances in itself. So this one will be busy and confusing for a while, but how it's assigned as far as seniority order, it does not speak to it. I mean, it doesn't speak to any of those specifics in there. So I'm unable to really give you a better answer to the usage of AV days, unfortunately. What I can say is you do not have to call in unless you want the AV day to be removed, and then you would be without pay for that day. If you have a single day trip, it would be a single day trip. If you have a 3-day and they've put AV on all 3 days, then of course you could have a 3-day to put on there. Trying to think of some of the other questions that were sent over. about EV. I'm sure you guys will keep asking the AV questions. So keep them coming and I'll do my best, but I do think it's not my area of expertise yet, this part, and I've been trying to get the language from when the pilot shortage happened, and I have not been able to secure that information. So I'm still working on trying to get that past language so that I can see all things at one time and be able to give a better answer. So my apologies.
Well, the problem with the past language in the previous contracts, which I was here for, and the language that she screenshotted in the email, is that if at the time of the trip canceling, and that is talking about the entirety of the trip, but now they're assigning AV days when only partial of a trip was canceled, and in eCrew they designate time frames, which makes people believe that they're on call during those time frames, and that's not how AV works.
No, it's not. And you're right. I mean, it is up to us to see what the true legalities of that AV is and make sure that we're adhering to what we're supposed to. But there is no set criteria around AV days. As you see in her email, that is literally what is in there that she's using. That's it. So it doesn't say that you have to call. It says it doesn't, none of that information is in there. So I would read that very carefully and adhere to exactly what it says. There is no obligation for you to do anything in there. So if you answer your phone and they do assign you flying, then you're assigned flying.
Well, I think that flight attendants, especially now, given that from 2010 to present, have no experience with AV days or even involuntary furlough or voluntary furlough, they have no idea what to do with this. And given that a lot of people, since for the past 7 years, have not even sat reserve for more than a month, if at all, they don't understand what Dee Dee is capturing here. And she's doing something very incorrect, in my opinion, because she's totally outside of the language of the CBA, and we have no one advocating for the flight attendants, even on scheduling our crew pairing or crew liaison, which we don't have. And I don't know, just anybody dealing with the situation in a whole, that flight attendants don't understand what to do if AV is being replaced for flying, which 70% of flight attendants are going to be experiencing, or if not 100% of flight attendants are going to be experiencing AV, and they don't have any understanding what that means. And they're trying to go off of language that Dee Dee is attaching in this email, which is just 100% incorrect. And no one is telling them that it's just wrong.
So the LECPs are 100% available to every flight attendant in their base to answer these questions specifically. So if a flight attendant, please be sure to let the flight attendants know if they have questions to reach out to their LECPs. Kirk and Marcella are available on the grievance team, as well as Jennifer, and they can answer questions regarding the grievances that will be coming in on this. So there's absolutely resources. I'm still trying to negotiate how we're going to work the side letter on this, if we're even going to want to do one. So I would say you definitely have resources. Flight attendants definitely have resources. They just need to reach out to them. I know Kirk has put several responses on Facebook, which is not our approved website, but I know that people have been asking. He is monitoring it and he is answering the questions on there. I know Todd Anderson, our VP, has got some experience on there as well. So we can put some resources out. I think Joelle sent out a resource sheet of all the contact names and phone numbers for people to reach out to. So definitely utilize those resources, but you're correct. The letter that Dee Dee sent out is her way of interpreting what is not in the contract currently. The language is actually, Kirk and Marcella feel like the language that she's using right now is actually better than what was in the contract. So we feel really strongly that this is an improvement to what the contractual language is. We feel it's a benefit to flight attendants to leave it as it is at the moment until we're able to really vet out what language we would want into it, if any. But as it stands right now, this is a big improvement over what the contract says for how to handle a cancel. So we're going to take the grievances. You can file a grievance on our website, which is afahorizon.org. definitely, if you feel that the contract was violated, make sure that you do that. But this language is something that we are looking at defining a little bit more for this time period, because I don't think this is, none of us feel like this is going to end anytime soon. Certainly not in the next couple of weeks, certainly not with the April bid. So we are going to see AV days, and we want to make sure that this language and any additional language we want in it, we're fighting for. So we're picking that back up again tomorrow. Management they didn't take the weekend off, but from doing these things, we didn't get any return emails on it. But you will definitely see updates coming from us about this and about the letter. But I would absolutely recommend that anyone you come across who doesn't understand them, reach out to us. It's a lot easier one-on-one for Kirk and Marcella to get those answers out to them. Jane, oh, hang on, I'm sorry. Brandy, you've had your hand up here for a second. Let me unmute you. Oh.
Sorry, I keep unmuting it myself.
Hi, Brandy.
Hi, I think you might have addressed this question, but do we need to be worried that since we're doing this, it's going to almost result in like being on reserve when we have a line? For example, I'm based in Seattle and I have a line. All my trips come out of Seattle, but with all the cancellations, could it make my trips go out of Payne and then I'm kind of in a lost spot because I commute to Seattle and not Payne?
It could. I mean, Payne is considered the Seattle base, and
okay.
Right now there is no protection for Payne being a separate base. So I would say that possibility does exist. I mean, certainly, you know, we're trying to make sure that we can get protections. If your trip was based out of Payne, there is some language that the footprint in that trip, but I would say, I have to say, I think it could happen. I wouldn't want it to happen. That's not what we want to happen, but Payne is part of the Seattle base, and I can see that scheduling would start to send people out of Seattle versus out of Payne. So
and what's the minimum amount of time they'd have to give you to try to get to Payne as opposed to SeaTac? 25 hours, is that what it is?
Well, it would still be a reasonable effort. So
okay.
They change your trip, and you know, we were talking, I know you and I were talking earlier offline, we were talking about some things that crew scheduling could do. We were talking about commuter benefits right now, because you have to look for 2 flights, and there aren't even 2 flights to take from certain places in the same place. What does that mean? So we're trying to work on negotiating that it's 1 flight instead of 2 flights, and trying to make sure that if you were assigned a Payne trip, that it is a Payne trip. We're trying to work on that it stays within 2 hours of the footprint at the end of your trip. But all of these things are happening so quickly that there's a lot of them up in the air at one time, and it's just grab one and try to push that one through while you're doing work on the other 5 that are still out there. So again, I think your best friend is documenting everything for the next few weeks at least. Make sure you're checking your crew pay, what you were paid against what you should have been paid. Ask your questions of your LACPs about specifics. Question the grievance team about those contractual questions, and continue to send things to us. We can do another check-in like this where we get the grievance team on the line and have a few more resources versus just me, who at times in the last 30 days, I'm a little brain dead. Try not to be, but some of the answers I have to actually grab my contract and look at myself, and I want to make sure that I'm giving the right answer and not just a quick answer. So I am, this will be available in text and recording, so you'll be able to watch it. I'll be going back through, capturing all these things that you guys are asking questions about that I'm going, I think it is, but I'm not positive, and making sure that I get you the true, honest, full, real answer to all of those things. So sorry,
thank you.
Sorry if I'm stumbling around at times, but yes.
No, that's helpful. Thank you. I know lots of people have lots of questions, so I appreciate your time.
Okay, and Jane, it's your turn.
Right.
Hi, Jane.
Hi. While we're talking about AV days, I have a question. For those of us who will be working April, May, June, especially April, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of adjustments on our trips. My question is, if we miss or ignore a call when you're on AV, I would assume
That's where the issue lies. If you're on duty on your AV day and you don't answer the phone, that's where the issue lies in it. And Kirk actually just sent me a text that said he's on. Let me see if I can locate him.
Okay, well, there's more to my question, actually.
Okay.
I would assume that it goes to without pay if you don't answer a call. But the big question is, does it then reduce your minimum guarantee as if you had dropped a trip? And does that then jeopardize your line for the balance of the bid?
Well, so I'm going to see if I can get Kirk unmuted because I want to say what I want to say, but then I want to make sure that Kirk doesn't hit me and say I should have said something different. So hang on one second.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find him here. Kirk, if you can hear me, can you swipe left on your phone? I wonder if I can dial him in with us. Joelle, if you can hear me, would you see if you could dial him in?
Well, if you don't have an immediate answer, just so that we do get an answer.
Absolutely. And we'll work on it. We still have another hour together. So I'll see if Joelle or Jamie can dial Kirk in so that we can hear him through their speaker, since I'm unable to locate him in his name is not showing up right now.
That's fine. You can move on.
Yes, we will absolutely. I know a lot of these questions are about AV days, and Kirk would be our best resource for that. So my hope is that we'll have his voice on here within the hour.
Okay.
Okay. And Janine, I'm going to take a question from you.
Okay, so I have a long story for you. I flew in and out of San Jose. San Jose had 2 TSA agents that had COVID-19. The gate agent had COVID-19. I had a headache at the time, but I came down with what I thought was a sinus infection. I lost my sense of smell. I lost my sense of taste. I had chills. I felt horrible. I called my doctor. He said it's a sinus infection. I said, okay, great. Did antibiotics, didn't help. Did more antibiotics, didn't help. My husband, in the meantime, came down with a fever, very high fever, up to 104.5. And he, on Wednesday, I took him and he tested positive. The doctor believes that I was an asymptomatic, can't even say the word, that I had no symptoms. And that I gave the virus to him.
Mm-hmm.
We're now on day 8. I had to call off. I have 6 X's on my line. And I keep trying to get, Matrix is waiting for my doctor. They want to do a family medical leave. They have, they're waiting for that. Dee Dee's like, do you still want the company leave of absence for April? Because I didn't know what to do because I can't have more than 10 or then I'm going to get fired. So I'm so freaked out right now because I am now in quarantine. I am not allowed to leave this house because my husband tested positive. He's quarantined from me. He still has a very high fever. So along with that worry, I am now worried that I'm not going to get paid and I don't know what to do. And everyone goes, well, what leave do you want? What medical leave do you want? I have no idea. I need help, please.
Okay, so first of all, there's no discipline. I know you said something about being terminated, but none of the leaves are associated with discipline. They're all completely protected from a discipline standpoint. So the first one that
now they have X's and 6 on my line and they are not protected right now.
The X's just mean that they're working on what designation to put on your line, whether it's going to be an LOA, and that has a certain designation. It's a black line, and I can't remember the LA, I think.
The supervisor changed it to sick. I had X's and they changed it to sick.
Okay, so what I will tell you is they absolutely will not be actionable during this period of time. There has been an assurance from every possible person in management that these would be without discipline. That is without question. The difficulty is in getting through to the doctors and getting Matrix to talk to the doctors or not talk to the doctors and talk back to Horizon and get the correct leave assigned to you for what you need. So that's where the difficulty lies. But we're absolutely able to help you with that. what I would do, Janine, I can reach out to you tomorrow and we can work one-on-one on how to get that resolved for the group. What I will say is my thought is this is either a medical leave of absence to care for a family member, which is covered by sick and vacation time, more than 14 days, or this will be a self-quarantine instructed by a doctor, which I'm sure has been involved, which would be another covered leave with sick and vacation time. There is nothing in this information that you've given to me that tells me it's a VQ LOA, which is a voluntary quarantine. So even if it were, you're still protected from a discipline standpoint. But Janine, if you don't mind to talk about the specifics and work with you one-on-one to get this situation resolved, I will work with you tomorrow to help you with that. The overall question, which we need to make sure everyone on board with us tonight hears, is there is zero chance of discipline if you have been sick, if you have been exposed. Whether we can prove workplace exposure or not in this one, I am unsure of at the moment. But there are some definites that are workplace exposure. The company has been very good about taking the notifications from CDC and advising those people who've come into contact. So if CDC has notified us, then I will also be reaching out to find out if they did notify us of that person and what crew members came into contact with that individual at the airport, so that, you know, just in case there's somebody else out there who may have come across those individuals. But they've been very good about the one individual who has tested positive for us, removing those crew member, protecting them, and making sure that there was absolutely any resource that they needed available to them for workplace exposure. So the individual ins and outs of how to manipulate this, there was another flight attendant that I think seriously spent the entire 14-day quarantine period trying to work out which leave they were supposed to be on, and it just got resolved. So that part of it, it's not funny, and I'm sorry, but for me, it seems so simple, but when there's only one person processing for 700 people, I think that's where it gets difficult. And that's not our fault by any stretch of the imagination, but it does mean that you're going to have to be perseverant. It means that you're going to have to continue to stay on top of that documentation and continue to forward it, and, you know, reach out to us and have us advocate on your behalf when needed to get that correctly documented for you.
Okay, the good news is that my daughter and I both tested negative. Now the doctor thinks I may have had it, and now I'm testing negative, so we'll know because I'm going to take the antibody test.
Okay.
So, but they need to test all the flight attendants. This is ridiculous. We could be flying around with it with no symptoms, no fever, but we could still have it.
And we are definitely working on getting that testing through. I'm not sure if you were on with us at the beginning of the call, but we, Sarah Nelson at our international office back in DC at AFA International is taking on the fight for all of us to have mandatory testing as first responders. So that is something that we are working on, and we're not going to give up that fight until we have the ability to get tested. Anna, you have been patiently over here waiting to chat. Anna, do you have a question? Oh, let me unmute you for you. Okay, there you go.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes. So with the AV days, I've been picking up a lot of trips out of base, and I had one where half the trip was canceled, and they put the first day of the trip as just an off day, and then they had me working the second half of the trip, which no longer was possible for me in terms of commuting. And I'm just wondering, if something like that happens again, am I still entitled to a hotel in the base?
So if your trip cancels in base, yes, that is part of our contract. We have that right now. Yes, you absolutely can get a hotel if your trip cancels in base and you need a hotel. We have new schedulers. Again, not an excuse. They need to, they absolutely need to know the contract. They shouldn't be answering the calls until they do know the contract. That is not something that has happened yet. They're not arguing, they're just for some of our others. So we definitely need to make sure that those things are being adhered to. And if they're not, file a grievance, call us, call a duty officer in the moment. text us, keep that list of phone numbers with you, but you absolutely do need to have that ability, have that contractual right that you have that hotel in base if you cancel. Absolutely. Now, talking about commuter real quick, I do want to say that the commuter benefit, the commuter policy, still make sure that you guys are on mute because we're getting some feedback from a couple of people. So as far as the commuter benefit, right now there are some cities that only have one flight. The commuter policy is still intact. If those flights show and it allows you to capture it in a screenshot up to 48 hours, no more than 48, but if they're on there, capture that information, make sure you document it, because if those flights are gone when you go to fly and commute in, you are protected. So I would really behoove anyone who's a commuter right now to be going 48 hours literally to that minute and capturing that information on those flights so that you're as protected as possible on the commuter policy the way that it is written, while we're trying to negotiate another way to get you safely protected with limited flights available. I'm going to flip over my screen here because I noticed that Danielle had her hand up for a little bit here. So Danielle, did you have a question?
I did. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Beautiful. So I have a quick question for you. When we all were watching the webcast on March 26th, there was a woman on there by the name of Andy that mentioned that there seemed to be a step between the CLOA that were offered. So there's like a voluntary time off, if you will, and then an involuntary time off, and then a furlough. Should we be concerned about that as a way the company can use, something that they can use to get around the guidelines that were handed down for accepting money from the government?
No. So the government put into place that they may not do any involuntary furloughs until after September if they wanted to have any access to the grant money at all. The grant money that bill has been signed.
I hear you. I hear you. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, but she was if you look at, it's around like the 41 minute in the question and answer, she specifically calls out involuntary time off as something that's done before furlough. So that kind of perks my ears up a little bit. So I'm a little concerned.
Nope, absolutely not.
Beautiful, thank you.
The grant money, they would be under huge penalties if they use that grant money or take that grant money and misuse that grant money in any way. So they are doing the staffing reduction leaves, company leaves. Ours is called a company leave of absence. Alaska's is called a staffing reduction. We're actually trying to get ours retitled so it makes it a little bit easier for the unemployment process, although I am putting together a document with all the statements that have been made in numerous documents and numerous webcasts that state that our CLOA is a staffing reduction leave of absence. That will help with the unemployment process by state. But no, they will do company leaves. They will do half bid company leaves if they need to get more volunteers. They will do an increase in part-time lines again in case more people want those. So we would not be looking at involuntary furloughs until September. And let's see here. Hang on one second. All right. Josh, you have another question. Go ahead. And then Judy, you'll be next.
Well, I want to let Janine know if she needs anything. Janine, please text me. I will be happy to help you. But we should be advocating for anyone whose family members test positive for corona, that they are off for company and the company pays for them being off. Like, they qualify for a company leave paid. There's no question about it.
Yep, you're absolutely right. She does, and she will. And it is a difficult process, but that is correct. Family member herself, she qualifies for 2 reasons. So it's just getting the right message to the right person. Judy, I'm going to take, and Josh, thanks for, obviously any help that Janine needs. I should repeat that EAP is available, Janine, for any needs that you have. Any resources. When we talk tomorrow, I'll make sure of any other needs that you might have and make sure you have everyone's number and you're really well established. They're having a daily, I believe it's a daily call for those who are quarantined, flight attendants who are quarantined because of their family members or themselves. So there's that resource that's available as well. So we'll definitely make sure we reach out and get those resources to you. Judy, I'll take
But I think Janine is concerned. I'm sorry. Janine is severely concerned about being paid versus not being paid. And she definitely qualifies for a paid leave, even though she tested negative at this time. But the company is going to fight her on that because of documentation and lack thereof, and say that she did not have corona and she should not be paid for this time that she's being quarantined.
That's actually not true. We've been able to clear up every case so far that has come in where they were not paying for a family member or a person who was medically quarantined. So I absolutely hear what you're saying, Joshua. I know that there are times that we have to really fight to get the right pay in there, but we'll file the grievance. They will get paid. They will absolutely, if it meets the criteria of the medical leave of absence because of that quarantine, which it sounds like it does, that will be taken care of with sick and or vacation time, as well as no discipline. The leaves we made sure were extremely clear in the verbiage for each one. We removed any doubt possible in each of them. So as long as there is even a smidgen of something that a doctor put somebody in, it could be a phone call, it doesn't have to be a piece of paper. You don't have to have the paperwork submitted for these leaves. It's a very different process than the standard process. Even a doctor's note is being approved right now for leaves. And that's very not in the norm for matrix leaves. Okay, Judy, and then Lexi, you're next.
So this is two questions. One is, and it may have come out and there's just such an influx of information, I might have missed it. Do we know, or do you know, has the company for sure accepted the terms of the government loan, bailout, whatever we want to call it? Has Alaska Air Group
loans different than the grant? There are 3 different programs that they went over in the website. They will be taking free money if they can get free money. So where they may not take money is in the loans. And that's because they already have established a lot of their own loans, and they've put in for new loans in the last 3 or 4 weeks, that they may not have to tap into a federal loan, which has a lot of there's a lot of hoops they have to jump through to keep that. They're trying to do as little borrowing as possible, but that information is all available in that website. And yes, I do expect that they will be asking for their fair share, whatever that is, for the grant. And it was asked in our earlier session if Horizon Air is included in that. And yes, it would be that Horizon Air makes a request and Alaska Air make a request through AAG as a whole. And Lexi.
Hey, I just wanted to follow up a little bit because I am currently just coming out of quarantine. I was the person that Lisa was talking about earlier. I've been going around and around with the company about it. Everything's good now, but my number one concern, it's not really a concern, but I think it could be for some people, is as I go back to work this week, what happens if I start getting sick again? And I have to go through the whole process again. And have you guys had conversations about that yet?
Yeah, we didn't talk about going from a voluntary quarantine to a voluntary quarantine because those are unpaid, and we felt like it would much more be going back and forth between a voluntary quarantine and a medical leave, and that process between the two. Yeah, I think that's a lot more likely. And yes, we've mapped that out some, again, with just a screenshot from your teledoc, from a written slip of paper that you get from the CDC when you go through your testing. They give you a slip of paper. That slip of paper, if you're tested, works. And yes, you can go back and forth between them by just logging in online and sending an email to that adjuster that you have through Matrix. I would not recommend calling Matrix. I would recommend using the web-based version of their program or your phone. They have an app for your phone and then a web version that you can use online. So I would absolutely recommend those. I'm not going to make any claims that it is not without difficulty to get these through. This happened literally overnight. The leaves were filed and finalized and given to Matrix literally overnight. And they are obviously going through their own staffing issues. So I'm not making excuses, but I want everyone to understand the amount of work that's involved, and we're all here to help you with it, including EAP, your local officers, myself. All of us are here to help. I want to make sure that you document as well as possible, that you let flight attendants know the protection is there and to call us if they have questions or they feel afraid to do that. If they're probationary, they have protection in every single one of these leaves. We even extended probationary flight attendants to be able to be part-time bidders. So at this point, we are all equal in these leave requests. And I know it's uncertain. I know it's a scary time. I know family members are getting sick and you're worried about survival. Truly, I mean, it's survival for some people in this situation with this virus. So however many times I need to sit here with all of you and answer questions, and our other officers need to sit here with you and answer questions, we will do that as much as we can. The weekends tend to be a better time for me because during the week I'm really working on this stuff 14 to 16 hours a day. But I can text with you, I can email with you while I'm on calls and while I'm in meetings, and we can definitely go back and forth on these things. And Janine, I expect that we'll have even tonight, if you wanted me to call you this evening, I could do that, but we will get yours resolved very quickly for you, so you're not sitting there worried, as well as taking care of your husband and yourself and your family. So, Lexi,
I think, yeah, I just wanted to really stress, like, to people that are going through it, like, don't worry too much about it. Don't let your worry be focused on whether or not you're going to get in trouble for it, because it'll get taken care of. Just like Lisa said, because it took a while, but it's all taken care of now. So thanks.
And I have to be honest, if the information is all there and very well documented about what happened, even 30 days from now, we can get this resolved. I know the pay is important right now, so we'll do everything we can to force the pay out there and correct it afterwards. I mean, there's no avenue we're not going to try and do to make this right based on the information that you present and bring forth to us. But I want to echo that. This is not a time for you to worry about your leaves. It was the number one thing we pushed through with gloves and masks and sanitizer from the very first day. This came from your AFA union leaders at Alaska and here at Horizon. We have not stopped until we had these protections, and we are not going to let anyone not have this protection. So it is not an option. And Janine, I'm going to unmute you.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I'm not putting my camera on because I look like death has warmed over. So I'm not on camera, nor
no worries.
Yeah. Okay. We can chat tomorrow if you'd like. I've got a call into Barbara Sullivan at Matrix tomorrow, and my doctor's going to change my leave to medical leave of absence. So yeah. We'll start with that, and then if you guys could just advise me what to do, because somebody definitely changed my X's on my line to 6. And I asked crew scheduling, and they were like, oh, well, a supervisor just sent us a note and told us to change them to 6.
Yeah.
That's when I started to panic.
Yeah, there is no panic for there to be discipline for you at all. The sick time is a pay designation. The sick time being on there shows that you're being paid for that time. So right. The X's mean we don't know how we're paying you, and we don't know what we're doing with you yet. The sick tells they've already decided that it is a paid protected one of the leaves. So that's already a good step in itself. And now we just need to make sure that the paperwork is there and it gets signed off, and it's all.
What about going forward? Because I took a company leave of absence because I didn't know what else to do.
So if you need to be off for a medical leave of absence into that company leave, you will transition. You will stay on your medical leave of absence until the doctor removes you or your family member that you're caring for. And then you will transition into the company leave of absence that you were granted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just took April off. So anyway.
Okay.
Thanks everybody for reaching out to me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Noran, I believe you've had your hand up.
Hang on, let me unmute here. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Thanks for doing this. This is a great program you've got going. My question is, for those of us who did take the 30, 60, 90-day leave by our choice, how is that going to affect our end of the year total hours for our insurance?
Okay.
There's been a lot of
good question.
Information out there.
Yep. Really
Nope,
good.
not that.
So when you're on the company leave of absence, you receive constructive credits. And the constructive credits are what accrue for your end of year benefits, for your full-time benefits for the next year. So on the company leave of absence, you will receive constructive credits for each day. And if you are on one of the COVID leaves, you'll either be trip guaranteed or you'll receive your sick or vacation time, which also count towards your end of year benefits accrual amount.
Oh, okay. Alrighty. Well, that clears that up.
Excellent.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right. Again, thanks for doing this.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And I'm sorry I don't have all the answers instantly, but I do promise that I will. So we've got a lot of people in here who haven't had a chance to ask a question, and I know Kirk is trying to get in to ask one, and unfortunately, I'm hoping, Jamie, are you on? Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, what's up?
Would you dial Kirk in so he can talk through you, because he doesn't show up, he didn't log in with his name, and there's too many numbers for me to go through to find his, and I want him to be able to speak to the AV days while we're still on.
Perfect, I will try to contact him.
Okay, great. And all right, so questions, let's see. Yes. Hello?
Oh, great.
Oh, Janine, it's okay. I can mute you. You're fine. All right. Anyone else with a question? I'm having to flip between screens. So if I miss you, just keep your hand up there and I'll get to you. Josh, yes.
Sorry, I don't really want to be asking all the questions tonight. I mean, I really wish we had a crew planning liaison to take a lot of the scheduling issues off of your hands, because you have a lot of other things to deal with. But I'm going to ask a question about what the projected number of staffing numbers are going to be needed given the reduction, because as Brad and Ben said the other day, the regional flying and fleet is being cut by 75%. So if you take the fleet from Horizon and SkyWest at 94, 75% of that is only 28 aircraft, divided equally is only 15 planes per airline. So given the numbers, Horizon's only going to need 150 flight attendants.
Okay, so to answer your question about the pairings, we, just so everyone understands, we do have a crew planning liaison. It is Peter. He is in the position for a year, and we will be putting out the position as a permanent position coming up soon. So I know, Josh, you're interested in that position, and there's some others who've also put in their notice that they'd like to be interested in or like to be considered for that position. I was supposed to have MEC chair positions posted a couple weeks ago, and that's actually not happening right now until I can get through the work of this, and then I will post those. But we do have a dedicated crew planning liaison, which is Peter Oxentenko. He has an excellent relationship with the planning department, and he is working with them. What does our bid look like coming up? So as you know, there was a side letter that got posted in advance of it actually getting finalized. I was sending off side letters and trying to get everything posted really quickly, and I got one out there that had not been finished yet. So my apologies for that. But you were able to see that the bidding timeline looked like it was going to shift. Alaska is building their file currently. Once they know what their flying will be, then they will be sending the flying to us after that, so that we can build what our pairings are. I expect that we should get that file sometime on the 1st. Peter is off. He's been removed from flying for that week. We kind of keep moving his week, but he is removed from flying, so he will be focused solely on pairing for 5 days. We are not negotiating with them less than 5 days of pairing build. So we still have our full 5 days in, even if we go with this side letter. That means we still have the full 5 days to do as much as we possibly can with those pairings that we do get. And we'll be able at that time to let everybody know what the flying looks like. We do not have the numbers yet. We don't typically get the numbers until the night before the pairing build starts. So we expect that we will get those numbers. That would probably be Tuesday. I would say with the way that this last few weeks has been, it may be Tuesday and it may be Wednesday. I mean, I expect they may pull that file back when they get it and say, nope, it didn't come across correctly and we need to redo it. So I expect there to be some hiccups in the files coming back and forth. But that said, we are still also going to have at a minimum the 6 days, I believe it was 6 days, 5 days to bid. 5 days to do the bidding. We're going to keep the times the same so that those times are consistent when the bids open, when the bids close. And again, that side letter hasn't been finalized. So I'm still working on the details of it. And then Kirk and Joelle as the LECPs still need to vote in favor of that information that's in it. We also kept the protest period at a full 24 hours. So we did not want to remove even an hour from that protest period. Lexi and Claire were great about giving us their recommendations for how to handle that timeline with PBS. And we also kept SAP in it. They came to us with a request to remove SAP. And we said, no, we recognize it may be the minimum numbers, but we're not waiving the contractual language on SAP being in the process as well. So that's what we know right now from a scheduling standpoint. But we had Peter's input, we had Lexi and Claire's input, and then of course we had Kirk and Joelle's and myself chiming in as well on the portions of that side letter. So I think when we get to it tomorrow, I think it will be the best that we can get out there. And I think it will definitely give everyone the time that they need, although the dates are different.
But we have no understanding from the company what the staffing numbers are going to look like after September 30th, which is what the government stimulus has them pay.
No, we have after September 30th. No, we're right now we are all trying to work with what does April look like and how bad will May and June be in comparison, and then how do we start to ramp back up for July and August and going forward. All right, Anna, you have your hand up. I will unmute you. There you go. Hi, Anna.
Hey, so I have a question about the contract and all of that that's coming up pretty soon. So some of what the negotiations updates, I know people weren't exactly happy with some of what it looked like was going to be in that contract. At this point, with the current state of the company, are we going to have any sort of chance to, I mean, are we just going to have to accept what's given to us, or are we going to have any chance to kind of, you know, look at some things that maybe we might not be happy with in that?
Well, the contract, the TA was voted on by the two LECPs, and they both approved a yes vote to membership. So they're recommending a yes vote on the TA. We finally have the final language, which Kimberly and myself and Dee Dee worked on and got the language and the intent of the language as closely defined as possible from all of the sessions. That was an interesting session. And it is now being approved by legal to make sure that there's nothing that got changed by either side that was inadvertent, intentionally, either one, but it's being looked at to make sure that they're both in PDF versions and they're just making sure they're exactly the same. We need to then get that TA out to the international office along with everyone's email addresses, and then we will start doing road shows and crew sits on the TA. So the answer to your question is no. At this point, we can't change the language in the TA. We've agreed to it, and we've signed that that is the official TA that will be put out to flight attendants. And then it will be up to flight attendants to decide through the road shows and asking questions. I mean, ask us your questions when we do those, and make sure that you read the entire TA. Will highlight in a summary of changes for you. That document will come to you with your ballot. It'll also be online, available to you on our website. The soft copy of the TA will be on our website. There will be printed copies for you in the crew room so that you're able to grab a printed copy and join us on the virtual roadshows and have it there and highlight some of the things you have questions on. The new language is underlined, so it makes it real easy to follow along and see what is new in the new TA. And there will also be an opening letter that will give you some background information into it as well. So we hope our timeline is still going to stay the same. We were shooting for somewhere the 6th or after of April for ballots to open. And that means that things would need to be mailed to you within the first couple of days of this week. So we're still on track. I will certainly communicate if it looks like we're getting delayed in any of those areas. The international office is closed, so we're having to mail to home addresses and just kind of do a few things differently than we've ever done before, but not that they're difficult. We can do that. So I expect the timeline to be the same, but there's nothing else that we could add into the TA at this time unless the TA is voted down, and then we would do a survey after that and find out what issues flight attendants had with it. So
yeah, so my question is kind of if it does, I mean, if we do get voted down, I mean, are we just kind of kicking ourselves at that point, or can we still negotiate for things if there are things in there that we're not happy with?
I think our staff attorney might shoot me for talking about this right now, but
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. There's a process for talking about the TA in specifics, and this is my third month on the job. So I will say that certainly, of course, the economic climate is going to come into play at some point in time, I would think. But for those questions, I think let's wait until we get the TA out to everybody.
Sure.
And let's get it in your hands. Let's get a really good amount of time to look it over, and then hit us hard with all of those questions when we're in the road shows. I'm really not trying to avoid your question, but it's more appropriate once you have it and you've had a chance to look at it.
I perfectly understand. Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
But also, you're wanting us to vote on a TA April 6th when we haven't even seen it?
No, the vote would not be final on the 6th, Josh. That would just be the soonest that the polls would open if we're able to get the ballots in the mail next week.
I'd be happy to say, Anna, that no one has to vote yes on a contract because I'm not in the MEC, so.
No one has to vote yes or no. It's an individual choice how you vote. Definitely always your individual choice. It's for you specifically. Natasha, did you raise your hand there? Yes.
All right. Hey.
Hey.
Okay. So just in terms of this week, I just wanted to let people know that anything you see in eCrew is really just wrong. For example, there was a trip today that was an open time for Friday, and it was San Diego Redmond overnight. And I was like, I live in Redmond, so I was thinking maybe I want to do that. And so I looked on eCrew, and it wasn't in red. It still said it's going on Saturday morning, April 4th, from Redmond to Seattle. And I had made a chart earlier in the week of what flights were operating via alaskaair.com and Fly. And I double checked. I was like, maybe they brought it back. And it's not on there. So it is canceled, but it's not in red. I called Redmond Station to confirm that. They said, yes, that's not operating. We're going down to 4 flights on Saturday. I'm like, okay, great. And then right now, I clicked on the crew that is working that leg that had me interested. And they started a trip on Wednesday. Wednesday has some red pre-cancels. Thursday has some red pre-cancels. But Friday and Saturday, they haven't been edited at all, even though there are cancels in it. So if you see a trip you think you like, if you see red, but oh, this is blue, it's all going to change, or it all can change. So, and even your commuting flights, or even your deadhead back on the last leg, they could be canceled outright. So it's really scary. Just make sure you're only picking a trip that you can do, or you don't have, constraints on either end, because it's going to get real crazy. So that's my question.
All right. Thanks for that. Judy? Yeah. Judy, are you there? Okay, I'll unmute you. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So going back to just previously when I was asking about a side letter, in hearing the medical professionals talk about this epidemic or virus, it won't be the last. There will be others. And I guess, knowing that, yes, the contract's been negotiated for it to be presented to us to vote on, is there a possibility or a probability that we could add a side letter, or if that would be the appropriate thing to do, regarding this kind of situation? Because it will happen again. And I know that this being the first time it's happened, obviously everybody is scrambling and we're learning good and bad things from this. But to protect us in the future, because there isn't anything sorry, I shouldn't say there isn't anything. There isn't as much coverage as perhaps we should have moving forward in anticipation of another situation like this. Would it be appropriate to look at adding a side letter to cover us?
I think we just have to look at, absolutely. I mean, it may be, and we're already trying to negotiate a lot of things around this. So there have been side letters that we've been able to negotiate. I'm sure there will be more memorandums of understanding. I think there'll be a lot of things that we work on through this process and get added into the contract at a certain point in time. I'm sure some may, others may not, but yes, it's something that we absolutely continue to look at, how we can strengthen our contractual language around these types of things. Now that this is the first event of its type, there's certainly things that we need to look at. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I think right now the focus is to protect everyone currently. And once we get through protecting everyone currently, we can start to look at how do we build upon that in the future.
Well, they're predicting this will subside and then come back again. So it's if we're voting on a new contract that will go into place, relatively quickly, assuming it passes, and then we're hit with another virus, on the heels of a short recovery. I guess that's where I'm coming from, is just being prepared as best we can for what could potentially be a second round.
Yes.
And knowing that the new contract could be voted on shortly.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Lisa.
Absolutely.
Lisa,
Yeah.
I think Melody Ybarra has a question.
Oh, let me scooch across.
She's saying she can't figure out how to raise her hand, but I think she has a question.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find her number. So actually, I have Kirk. I'm going to unmute Kirk while I find Melody, so Kirk can talk about AV days. Kirk, you are unmuted.
Uh-oh, can everyone hear me?
Yes,
can you hear me?
Hear you.
Okay, good.
They're all muted.
Okay.
They're all muted. And just before you get started, I found Melody. So after you're finished, I'll be able to click on Melody. Thank you, Josh, for letting me know that. I appreciate it. Okay, Kirk, it's all yours.
Okay, so what specific questions are on AV days are coming up? I was late to the meeting.
All of the above. They want to know.
All of the above.
Yes, every question you can imagine about AV days. So let's do an AV 101.
Okay. So what Dee Dee had posted is regarding AV days is not actually in the contract. It looks like a contractual language. It is not in the contract. That is what she is following for AV days. One key feature in the communication and what we've done in the past is it's important if you're aware that if you have an AV day on your line, you do not need to call through scheduling. So that is one sentence in the communication that she sent out. You are required to return a call if you are on a trip and the pilot or the ground tells you to call for scheduling and you're on duty, you are required to call for scheduling and they can assign you AV days. Excuse me, assign you flying on your AV days during your duty time. So no one's required to have a cell phone with them while they're on a trip or while they're on duty. If you're on reserve, sitting reserve, of course, you're contactable. That's your primary contact number. And but the key word is you're not required to, you don't need to be contactable like rescheduling. AV is not reserved. You're not on call. You're not on duty of any type for sitting by the phone. So, does that kind of help with the question on it, or the questions that might be out there? I can't think of anything else that might.
Sorry, Kirby, I don't think it does, because when in eCrew they take off the trip and they put AV and they put a time frame, that it makes people think that they're contactable during that time frame.
That's the time frame when crew scheduling can assign you a trip, put a trip on your line, and it should be, the time should be based on your original trip duty time on that day. That would be the day of your AV. I've heard there's some mistakes on that, but what they should be putting in for AV is the duty times, or your start and end time of your original trip that you had before it was removed and replaced with AV. Right. So that is the time where they can assign a trip in that footprint of your original trip. It could be a day trip, it could be a multi-day, but that time is when they can assign a new trip in that footprint.
Right, those are the duty hours that you originally had, that they can now assign you a new trip within that same duty hour footprint. But can that be the same day and they call you out for 2 hours and then you go and fly something that still matches up?
Correct, yes, they could do that, yes. Mm-hmm. They should be assigning you a trip that's completely out of that time frame that you aren't doing AV. It should be assigned during your original duty time.
Yes, but if you're saying that people are not supposed to be on call by their phones waiting for a call from scheduling, but they have AV tomorrow between the hours of 8 a.m. and 1600 hours, that they're supposed to answer a call from scheduling or accept flying within that time frame, that's not how it's supposed to work.
Well, no, you're not required to sit by the phone. If you have an AV day, say like tomorrow is an AV day, and you're supposed to be available from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., you are not required to sit by your phone or answer your phone while you're on, when you have AV on. So you're not required to. If you answer and accept an assignment, that's great. If you want to log in eCrew and accept an assignment, you can. You're not required to log in eCrew. You're not required to do anything. But if you are assigned a trip and you accept it, you are required to fly it. Or if you're on duty the day prior and they assign a trip, then you are required to do that trip.
So to clarify,
yeah.
So to clarify, if I'm off today, I have 2 AV days coming up, and I do and I have not entered the phone from crew scheduling, and I have not logged in today or tomorrow to look at my trips for Monday and Tuesday, I don't have to go to work for those AV days. If I do not self-notify or speak with crew scheduling, I don't have to worry about the trip that they've put on my line.
Correct, yes. You're not required to check eCrew. You're not required to answer your phone when you have an AV day. I mean, it's your choice. If you want a trip and you're looking for it, if you log in and check or call crew scheduling, hey, I heard there's a message, you have a trip for me. I want to do the trip. So you're not required to log in eCrew and accept any assignment or call crew scheduling back if they leave you a message. You are not required to be by your phone.
It does not say that in that email that Dee Dee sent.
Well, it does say in the email. There's one sentence, but then the next sentence confuses people. The one sentence says, if you have AV added to your line, you do not need to call crew scheduling. So that's the key there on whether or not you need to call crew scheduling.
But then equally, people are not going to be without pay for the days they didn't answer or return a call and had AV scheduled flying.
So the intent of AV currently, it's outside the contract, and the intent, what management has done, when we had the reduced pilot, when we had the pilot shortage, was about 2.5 years ago, was it? Yes. And then a year ago when we opened paying, that's when AV days were used. And what management was doing was I'm not explaining this very well. So AVs are to trip guarantee your original trip that you lost flying on. So let me back up a little bit. So if you go with current contract language, we have you are min guaranteed for your line. They could cancel all the flying for the entire month and you will still receive min guarantee. Like if Horizon Air shut down for the month of April because of this COVID-19, everyone will receive min guarantee on their line. If you're wanting a lot of people are flying in excess of min guarantee and they're trying to make more than the min guarantee. So the AV days are a way to ensure that you're getting above min guarantee. So if you don't care about receiving more than min guarantee on your line, you could drop those AV days. As Dee explained in the email, you still get your min guarantee. Say if you're full time and you flew as scheduled, you didn't drop anything without pay. In eCrew, you would get 69.30 hours for 69 hours and 18 minutes for the whole month. That's if you drop your AV days. If you're flying more, if you're a high time flyer, high credit value flyer, and that's what AVs are there intended to protect. There's those people that want to make more than 69.3 hours. It's a way to trip guarantee your pay for trip cancellation.
So before
Right.
we ask
It's a
another
whole
question
contract.
on this, I'm going to go up to Melody because I know she's been waiting really patiently. Kirk's, hang in there for one more second because I know there's one more question for you from another member.
Yeah, no worries.
Let me get Melody. Melody, you are unmuted.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm in the back of the room. You couldn't see me.
I can't see you. I just see a wall.
I am curious about the CLOAs, and if you know at this time if they're going to offer them again. Say not enough people, stuck their hand up or whatever in May or before May's bids. Are they going to come out again and say we need to do this again, or do you have any information on that?
So, I would think that with the changes in flying and the continued reductions that there could potentially be more leaves offered. I don't know that. I don't know that Dee Dee has gotten the information over to planning yet, even since it happened over the weekend. The award was done on Saturday. So I think we'll have more information on that next week. Dee Dee did mention that she would like to be able to still offer some of the 2-week leaves. So that would be a 2-week for the first half of April, 2-week for the second half of April. She didn't specify which month, but I used April just myself as an example. So I do expect that there will be more opportunities. Also, as people come off of different leaves and go on to different leaves, it should open up some positions as well. So I expect there will be more opportunity for leaves, although that is just my thought on it. There is no information from the company on that yet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And Joelle, I believe you had a question, if I can find you. Can you unmute yourself, Joelle? You said you could not. I'm looking here for you. Someone is unmuted. Until I find you, Joelle, I'm going to go back over to Kirk and see if anyone has their hand up. Lexi. Yes.
So I think what I'm hearing Kirk say, I just want to clarify, maybe
Sure.
just using different
Yeah.
words too, is that if I have AV on my schedule, scheduling has to tell me if they have a different trip for me at least 24 hours prior to the start of my original trip. Is that correct?
Let me look at what you wrote. That wasn't what it used to be, but it may have changed. I think she changed it a little bit. Let me look at that real quick.
So the way I read it, she wrote, if you leave the AV, you will be notified at least 24 hours in advance that you have been assigned duty. So to me, that means at least 24 hours in advance, they'll tell you.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, I hear there's some people out there that are being called a few hours ahead. of AV Day. So I'm glad you brought that up because I think rescheduling is not following that.
So I'll tell you what I'll do. What I plan on doing with the AV days on my schedule that I'm sure will arrive shortly is that I'll check my schedule 24 hours prior to the start of my trip. If there's something else there, then I want the pay guarantee, so I'm going to accept it. If there's nothing else there 24 hours prior to the start of my trip, I'm considering myself off. Makes it simple.
There you go. That's a good way to do it. Yes. Yeah. You're not required to be contactable. So.
Yeah. It's not reserved.
But crew scheduling, yeah, correct. It is not reserved. Crew scheduling has called people on a trip via the pilots, is what I've heard lately, and telling them the day prior, like, hey, we have you have AV tomorrow. We have a trip for you now. So if you get a message from crew scheduling via the pilots or the ground, you are required to contact.
Sure.
But you're not required to contact. You're not on duty, of course. If you're on your own time off or on AV, you are not required to be by the phone or answer calls.
Okay. Thanks.
So
I know it's a little confusing, the AV, because I think it's meant to be a little bit confusing because they want to make sure people are available. It's intent. That's the intent, I think.
So to clarify on that point, Lexi, so if you saw something at 25 hours prior and they call you on that 25th hour, you would answer your phone.
Well, they're saying they're not going to call you. They're saying they want you to self-notify an eCrew, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I would self-notify, yes, if I want the pay guarantee, which I do. So
I agree with you, Lexi, but it's all outside of the contract. So anything.
Oh, absolutely. Trust me, I know that,
You
Judge.
should still, yeah, you should still be pay guaranteed for your original trip. If you do not remove the AV days. If you have AV days on your line and you end up not flying, you should be pay guaranteed for your original trip. If you have AV days and you are assigned flying, you should be paid the greater of your original trip or the new trip.
But the answer is, unless they grab you on duty for AV days, you do not have to answer or self-assign. Unless you want to be like Lexi and protect yourself from min guarantee, then self-assigning your days off. But
not min guarantee. Not min guarantee. I'm protecting myself for a trip guarantee. So that's the difference.
Yes. Okay.
Min guarantee is guarantee you're getting the min, and a trip guarantee is guaranteeing you're getting paid above the min. So if you're a high time flyer, you're going to want to make sure you get that trip guarantee.
Sure, but if they take off without pay for that day, that you don't respond to them.
Yeah, I mean.
No, they don't change it without pay. They just leave it on there, and you just didn't receive a trip. That's what they've done during the when we had the delay in the paint field flying and the pilot shortage. You still got trip guarantee whether you flew or not on an AV, or you accepted assignment or not.
So I'm going to keep the call going past 8 because we still have 3 more people with their hands up for questions, 4 more people actually. And I want to make sure we get to all of these questions before we disconnect the call. So I'm going to start with Tammy. Tammy, you are unmuted. Tammy, are you still there? All right, we will come back to Tammy. Danielle, you are unmuted.
Hi there again. Quick question for Kurt. I had a trip originally tomorrow, just a day trip. I'm based in Spokane, just a quick work. They were deadheading me to Seattle, sit for like an hour and work a flight back. Now what it says is they are deadheading me to Seattle. I sit for 8 hours on AV, and then they're flying me back at like midnight. Without realizing that I could have probably done something differently, I accepted the trip. So if I own it, I own it. That's fine. I can just call out tomorrow. I don't have a problem with that. But is going forward, is that something that they could do?
Did you have a multi-day tomorrow?
No, it was just a one-day trip that I picked up to help out. It was literally a quick Seattle. I sit for like an hour and fly back to Spokane.
Oh, I see. Originally, okay, yeah, so they're doing it well beyond the.
Yeah, now I sit in Seattle for TV.
Wow. Well, you can get a hotel in Seattle for one. If you're sitting more than 5 hours.
Yeah, but
And
going forward, is
and
that something that I have to accept?
no, you shouldn't have to accept it unless they
Okay.
assign it when you're on duty.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
That's
I
okay.
The
will.
problem is,
Yeah.
is that she accepted a trip, and now that they've canceled the other part of the flying back to Spokane, they can do whatever they want with her, and which means have her head back as late as possible so that she can sit there, and then they can assign her more flying. That's how they circumvent it, Danielle.
Crazy.
Yeah, that sounds correct.
Well, good to know going forward. Thank you guys, and thanks to you too, Josh.
All right, so Tammy, I see you're back here. I'm unmuting you. Are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi, Tammy.
Thank you. I have a question about CLOA. I applied for that for the month of April. I had a carryover trip that starts March 31st and goes, it's a 4-day trip. I noticed that everything that had been previously assigned to my line for the month of April has been removed. However, that carryover trip is still there. I just got notice this afternoon that March 31st has been now assigned as an AV day. So my trip actually now starts April 1st, but I'm supposed to be on leave through the month of April. How is that supposed to work?
I think it still has to do with being transition right now. So let's follow up afterwards and double check with Dee Dee on that one. I'll make a note on this to reach out tomorrow and make sure that that's still coming off. So.
Okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay, got it.
Lisa, I'm in a similar boat. Nick Hoback here.
Hi, Nick.
Where I have a trip starting on the 31st and then leave starting on the 1st.
Okay.
So I'm assuming they don't want to have me overnighting in Redmond and then go on leave.
Right. Nope. I will put both of those in there, and I'll just talk with her about any that are sitting out there like that. All right. Trips on first. Sounds like who's on first. Got it. And I know, Jane, you had a question. I will unmute you. There we go. Oh, I'll try again.
Clarify.
Now you're good. Hi, Jane.
Okay. Hi, Kirk. Are you still there? Yeah, hopefully.
Yes.
Okay, so this was really to clarify what I'd asked earlier, which was somewhat answered, but not completely, or it didn't sink in. So if you have an AV day that you either miss the call or you don't self-acknowledge or don't respond to it in any fashion, in other words, you don't want to fly it, have you now waived your minimum guarantee and any future pay? In other words, if they're just giving you random AV days instead of trips through the rest of the bid, which is very likely to happen, and don't assign you a trip, are you being paid minimum guarantee, or are you now on a block basis what you're flying?
So the intent of the AV, you can drop all your AV days for the entire month, and you'll still get min guarantee. The intent of AV is to trip guarantee if you're flying above min guarantee and you want to receive more than the min guarantee that you asked. You know, for instance, if you had 80 credit hours for the month and they dropped everything, the intent of the AV is to ensure that you're still getting 80 hours of pay. So if you don't want to do AV, you can drop them, but you're only going to get 69.3 hours of pay for the month if you're full time.
Okay, that clears it up. Thanks.
I know it's the problem is we haven't had AV days in our contracts for several years, and so it's trying to remember all the little details like that. It's a little bit of a challenge.
Well, as I recall, they were to call you the evening before or the day before, and if they did not have a trip for you, the AV day just went away, and you had a day off.
Correct. Day off with pay. The first time AV was in 2 contracts. The first contract it was in, it was 2 or 3 contracts. The first one that was in, it was the way we had our bids built and pairings. It was to make up for if you were below min guarantee. It was to give crew scheduling an option, and you actually had to call crew scheduling, I think, by 8 p.m. the day prior. And we changed it to where it was optional, and that if you wanted a trip, you can take it, but you didn't have to, unless you were on duty, of course, and they assigned it to you, or they contacted you and you accepted the trip. So.
Okay, got it. So if you're on a trip, you
Yeah,
get a notification that you need to call crew scheduling. You need to call crew scheduling. Otherwise, if they don't call you, or if you miss the call, you're just plain not working, and that's okay with me.
Correct. Yeah, and you should be receiving the pay for your original trip, even if you don't fly that day. If you have AV and you just don't get assigned a trip, then you should be paid for the original trip.
So what if you have 3 AD days in a row? You're each one is unique, right?
Same thing. Yes, it'd be the same thing. It doesn't matter whether it's one day at AV or 4 days at AV. Okay. You should still be trip guaranteed for your original trip, even if you are not assigned flying. The assigned flying, they need to assign it to you in whatever means they can. But if they don't reach you by phone, or if you don't log in eCrew and don't accept, then there's no way to assign you that trip unless you take the initiative and answer your phone or log into eCrew.
Right.
So.
And then you would still, I would assume, have the risk, just like one question a few minutes ago about her trip being changed. Once you pick up a trip from the company, they have you and they can do with it as they wish. So I would assume.
Correct. Yeah, that's true for all of us. It's frustrating when you show up for a trip and they've rescheduled you for something completely different, and they do have the right to do that. When you're on duty, they can do whatever they want to you, essentially. So that is part of our current contract. Yeah, when you're off work, it's your own time. When you're not on duty, you're not required to do anything, of course. But if you're on duty, they can do whatever they want, essentially. So, which is happening to a lot of us, where things are canceling and they're rescheduling it to something completely different, or adding, or it's frustrating. Or adding, beyond your original trip, you'd been done at 6 p.m. and now they have you finishing at midnight. It's like, I didn't sign up for that. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You answered my question. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Jane. It is after 8. I don't see any hands raised, but I want to make sure that everyone has had a chance to ask a question. So I'm just going to go through and quickly unmute each of you. And if I don't hear anything, we'll go forward and we'll end the call. But Lori Smith is the first person on the list. So I unmuted Lori. Did you have any questions for us?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to make sure for some people who might not have been able to unmute, I get to everybody. Camille, I'm going to unmute you. Are you okay? Do you have any questions? All right, and Circa, I'm gonna unmute you. Did you have any questions?
No, you guys did awesome. Everything I know, you guys did awesome.
Great. And Stephanie Lear, I'm unmuting you. Did you have any questions tonight?
No.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us. And let's see, Debbie Vega, did you have any questions for us tonight? If I can unmute you. Oh, there you are.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Nita, did you have any questions for us this evening? I'm going to unmute you and see if you had anything. Oh, it doesn't want to unmute you. I might have to come back to you. Nope, it won't let me unmute you, so I'll come back. Louise, did you have any questions this evening?
I think I did, but I think that they were answered, and thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're so welcome. Annalise, did you have any other questions tonight?
Doing good. Thanks so much.
Okay. And Anna, did you have anything else this evening? Nope. Okay.
Nope, I'm good.
All right. It looks like I have other numbers here. It would be really hard for me, unfortunately, since you didn't register with your name to figure out who those people were. So unless I'm going to give you just maybe 30 seconds to raise your hand for a question. Otherwise, I'm going to thank all of you for doing this, and we will get back with the answers that we said. We will follow up with those individuals we said we would follow up with. Oh, I should say there will be a communication coming from the PBS committee at the point in time that we get this all finished, and we'll get that out. So they'll be going through timelines and all kinds of great information about what this means. So that communication will be coming out shortly. We just need to finish getting the bidding stuff put together. Lexi, did you have anything else?
Just that included is we're working on putting together what we anticipate will be some frequently asked questions about bidding in these kind of uncertain times. So things like how to enter a reserve bid and how that works is we're expecting the number of reserves to be greatly from normal. And also, since we're expecting credit windows to be so low, that could have some impact on our bidders. So we're going to put together some info on that. So hopefully that can help everybody understand what they need to make sure they do, because the bid's going to be different. The results are going to be different than anything we've ever seen. So.
All right. Thank you for that. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on our first evening webcast. It was wonderful having you all here. I hope that it was informative. I hope that it gave you a little bit of comfort with some of the answers we gave you and wasn't too frustrating with some of the other answers. But we will continue to get your questions in and answer those. Oh, Joanne, I see you have your hand up. Did you have a question before we go?
Well, no, I mean, not really a question, but I just wanted to say thank you for doing this. And I believe that the trouble that people are having that are trying to get in, it's the registering, and I was easily able to get in by just plugging the number into my Zoom, in my regular Zoom account, and then plugging the password in. But through the link, I think that's where people are having trouble. So you might investigate that for future reference. Is all.
We may do a test since this is the first time we've done this. We may do a couple more tests and have some people randomly try to jump into it here and there before we get it all vetted out. Thanks for helping those people offline, Joanne. We really appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. All right, everyone. Well, have a good night. Stay safe, and we'll keep in touch. Thanks.
Thank you.